Hello, today I'm going through Majjhima Nikaya number 36, which is the MahaSaccaka Sutta, translated as the Greater Discourse to or with Saccaka. And that's partially a repeat of Majjhima Nikaya number 4, and its location is Vaisali, and the people involved are Buddha, a person called Saccaka, also known as Ajivasana, and is referred to in the text both as Saccaka and Agavasana, but just to save confusion I'll just refer to him Saccaka throughout. And also, I think probably recording the event is Ananda. Now the discourse with Saccaka is also, if you may remember, in Majjhima Nikaya number 35, the shorter discourse with Saccaka. And in the previous discourse with Saccaka, it's more of like a head-to-head debate with a crowd, and each person, Saccaka and Buddha, are demonstrating their debating skills with Saccaka, saying he can debate and beat anybody, and you can watch them, the people he debates, watch them break out in a sweat with the continued debating points made by Saccaka. But in the Majjhima Nikaya number 35, Buddha defeats Saccaka on the debating points and shows that he hasn't broken out in a sweat. But this meeting is more convivial, I suppose, and as I say, it's just Buddha, Saccaka and Ananda. And so the Nikaya starts with, or the sutta starts with, Buddha encountering Saccaka on his alms round, with Ananda first of all giving some background on Saccaka, as I've just stated, saying that Saccaka is a debater, a clever speaker, who many regard as a saint. Now Saccaka wants to discredit Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. Ananda goes on to say that it'd be good if Buddha engaged with Saccaka out of compassion. So I think Ananda's basically saying if Saccaka realised and appreciated the Dhamma, then that would be the saving of him. And so the conversation begins. Saccaka starts, Master Gotama, and throughout refers to him as Master Gotama, rather than by any other title. Saccaka goes on, there are some recluses and Brahmins who live pursuing development of body, but not development of mind. They are touched by bodily painful feeling. Their thighs are rigid, their hearts burst, hot blood gushing from the mouth. They would go mad out of their minds. Their minds were thus subservient to the body and fell under the power of the body. Why? Due to a lack of development of the mind. And then there are some recluses and Brahmins who live pursuing development of the mind, not development of the body. They are touched by mental, painful feeling. When one of them is touched by mental, painful feeling, his thighs grow rigid, his heart bursts, and hot blood gushes from his mouth. He goes mad out of his mind. His body was thus subservient to his mind. Why? A lack of development of the body. So, Master Gotama, it has occurred to me, Master Gotama's followers abide pursuing development of mind, not development of body. Buddha responds, Saccaka, what you have learned about development of the body. So I repeat that, what have you learned about development of the body? Well, replies Saccaka, there are, for example, Nanda Vacha, Kisa Sankicha, and Makali Gosala. Now, the people that Saccaka is referring to are members of the Ajivika sect. Now, the sect apparently predates Buddhism, but has now disappeared. and it was basically a doctrine of inaction. Fate decides, what will be will be. Ajivika can be translated as meaning lifeless ones. So Saccaka continues. They go naked, rejecting conventions, licking their hands, not stopping when asked. They do not accept food specially made, accept no liquor or wine, and so on. They take little food. And Buddha asks, do they survive on just that? No, Master Gautama. Sometimes they consume excellent food, excellent delicacies, excellent drinks. Thereby they regain their strength and fortify themselves and become fat. Buddha responds, so what they earlier abandoned, they later gather together. This is how they increase and decrease the body. But what have they learned about? What have you learned about development of the mind? Saccaka was unable to respond. Buddha continues, you have spoken of development of the body, but it is not development of the body according to the Dhamma. As you do not understand development of the body, how could you understand development of the mind? So I will tell you as to how one is undeveloped in mind and body, and developed in mind and body. Buddha goes on, firstly, how is one undeveloped in mind and body? Pleasant feeling arises in an untaught person. Touched by that pleasant feeling, he becomes impassioned with pleasure and continues to lust after pleasure. But that pleasant feeling ceases. And with the end of that pleasant feeling, painful feeling arises. And touched by that painful feeling, he sorrows, grieves and laments, becoming distraught. And when that pleasant feeling that arose invades his mind and remains, I'll repeat that. And when that pleasant feeling arose, it invades his mind and remains because of lack of development of the body. When that painful feeling arose in him, it invades his mind and remains because his mind is not developed. So in the commentary to this text in the Bikkhu Bodhi version, it states that development of body equates to insight and development of mind equates to concentration. That pleasure is experienced by the body, excuse me, and that pain is experienced by the mind. So reading through this several times, the only thing I can sort of where I equate to it, how I equate to it, is a couple of miles down the road is a chocolate factory, and if the wind's blowing in the right direction and they're roasting chocolate beans, there's a beautiful aroma assailing my nostrils and sets off my smell sense, and it's a very pleasant feeling, and that sets off my taste sense. So I go indoors into the kitchen and look for some chocolate to eat, and that is, the pleasant feeling has invaded my mind and remains because the body is not developed. However, if I've run out of chocolate and there's none to be found, a painful feeling arises out of disappointment, which develops self-scolding because I forgot to buy some chocolate, or blaming if another family member has eaten the last of the chocolate. So that painful feeling has invaded my mind and remains because my mind is not developed. So that's a brief analogy, I suppose, is the way I understand that section of the text. Anyway, back to the story. Buddha continues, and how, Saccaka, is one developed in body and developed in mind? Here, Saccaka, in a well-taught person, when a pleasant feeling arises, he does not lust after pleasure or continue to lust after pleasure. The pleasant feeling ceases. With the cessation of the pleasant feeling, painful feeling arises. Touched by that painful feeling, he does not sorrow, grieve, lament, and become distraught. So when that pleasant feeling has arisen in him, it does not invade his mind and remain, because body is developed. When that painful feeling has arisen in him, it does not invade his mind and remain, because mind is developed. The well-taught person thus developed in body and is thus well developed in body and well developed in mind. Buddha asserts, since he took up the homeless life, it has not been possible for arisen pleasant feeling to invade my mind and remain, nor has it been possible for painful feeling to invade my mind and remain. And my comment on that is that this seems to infer that pleasant, painful feelings do invade Buddha's mind, but those feelings are transitory or transient and fleeting. Saccaka responds, perhaps there has never arisen in Master Gotama the sort of pleasant and painful feeling that, having arisen, would invade his mind and remain. Why wouldn't it? Buddha replies. Buddha then recounts his journey into homelessness life. That's also referred to in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 26. How he came across Alara Kalama and followed his teachings. His conviction, his persistence, his mindfulness, concentration and discernment followed his Dhamma with direct knowledge. But Buddha concludes that Dhamma does not lead to awakening, only to the reappearance in the dimension of nothingness. So Buddha leaves that Dhamma and joins the group led by Uddaka Ramaputta. And Buddha's experience is repeated, that the Dhamma doesn't lead to awakening, that this Dhamma, shall I say, does not lead to awakening, only to reappearance in the dimension of neither perception and non-perception. Buddha moves on and finds a suitable place conducive to his striving, a place called Uruvela in the Magadhan country. And then Buddha relates there are 3 similes that occurred to him that have never occurred before. And the first is that a man tries to make fire with his dry stick and a wet piece of wood lying in water. Would he succeed? No, replies Saccaka. And why not? Because the wood is wet, lying in water, the person would only reap weariness and disappointment. So there's an allusion here to, I assume, that when folk were travelling they'd carry around a dry piece of tinder, which when rubbed very fast against another piece of wood would result in smouldering and then fire. And it's the same with a dry stick and a wet piece of wood. There would just be disappointment. So too, Buddha continues, those recluses that have not given up sensual pleasures, have not fully abandoned them and suppressed them internally, regardless of mortification, they are incapable of knowledge, vision and enlightenment. And the second simile that occurred to Buddha was, a man tries to make fire with his dry stick and a wet piece of wood lying on dry land, far from water. Would he succeed in making fire? No, replies Saccaka. This man again would not make fire, would only reap weariness and disappointment. This time Buddha alludes to the Brahmin and recluses who have withdrawn from sensual pleasure, but those pleasures have not been fully abandoned internally, regardless of mortification. They are incapable of enlightenment. And the third simile that occurs to Buddha, never heard before, is a man tries to make fire with his dry stick with a dry piece of wood, lying far from water. Would he succeed? Yes, Master Gotama, Saccaka replies. Why? Because it is a dry piece of wood, on dry land far from water. So too, Buddha concludes, those recluses and Brahmins who have withdrawn from sensual pleasure, fully abandoned and suppressed internally regardless of mortification, they are capable of knowledge and vision and supreme enlightenment. So I've just got the comment that the similarly refers to mortification. Painful, racking, piercing feelings due to exertions are not a prerequisite to enlightenment, but the abandonment and suppression of sensual pleasures is a prerequisite to enlightenment. Buddha continues, suppose what would happen if, with my teeth clenched and my tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth, I beat down and constrained my mind with mind. So, this is Buddha looking in his past. So Buddha tried this, and with sweat running down him, just as a stronger man could take a weaker man, beat him down, crush him, so too with my teeth clenched and tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth. Tireless energy arose, mindfulness established, but my body was overwrought and tense because I was exhausted by the painful striving. But this painful striving that arose in me, this painful feeling that arose in me, did not invade my mind and remain. So again, Buddha is proving to himself that enlightenment does not come through mortification. Buddha then tries a different technique, withholding the breath. Again, he endured pain and achieved mindfulness, but was exhausted by the painful striving and the feelings that were only fleeting. He tried the technique again with more energy, but only achieved the same result. And then this repeats again with even greater striving, without further progress, until he is thought to be until Buddha is thought to be near death, which people observed was the way of the Arahants. So I can sort of imagine Buddha being completely almost out of it, and people saying, oh, this is what Arahants do. So Buddha then tries, but this isn't successful, so Buddha then tries a different tack to achieve enlightenment, starvation. Buddha declares this is the utmost of the piercing, racking, painful feelings to be endured. There is none beyond this, but Buddha did not achieve any superhuman state or any distinction in knowledge and vision through starvation. So could there be another path to enlightenment? Buddha then recalls that as a child he was able to reach the first jhana, sitting in a cool shade, quite secluded from sensual pleasure, secluded from unwholesome states. This first jhana is accompanied by applied sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. Buddha wondered this could be the path to enlightenment, and he realised it could be. Crucially, Buddha realised that this pleasure had nothing to do with the sensual pleasures and unwholesome states. Buddha also realised that it is not easy to attain this pleasure with such an emaciated body. So Buddha took to eating properly again, much to the disgust of his 5 followers who were with him. They left, believing Buddha had given up striving for enlightenment and reverted to luxury. Now resustained and regained in strength, Buddha proceeded to experience the jhanas, secluded from sensual pleasures and unwholesome states. And then this sutta then repeats previous suttas about Buddhas passing through the jhanas, specifically Majjhima Nikaya number 4. And all this occurs over the course of one night. In the first jhana, applied sustained thought, and the pleasant feeling did not remain. Then to the second jhana, internal assurance, unification of awareness free from directed thought and evaluation. But the pleasant feeling that arose did not invade my mind and remain. With the fading of rapture, but still equanimous, mindful and alert, Buddha entered the third jhana, which is a pleasant abiding, but this still did not invade his mind and body. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, As with the early abandonment of elation and distress, he entered the fourth jhana, purity of equanimity and mindfulness, neither pleasure nor pain. But the pleasant feeling that arose did not invade his mind and all remain. At this point, Buddha directed his mind to the knowledge of recollecting past lives, thousands of lives over many eons, cosmic contraction and expansion. This was the first knowledge, but still the pleasant feeling that arose did not invade his mind and remain. So now the mind was thus concentrated, Buddha directed it to the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings, how they can be beautiful, ugly, fortunate, unfortunate, in accordance with their karma, how those who conducted themselves badly ended up in the hell realms, and those who conducted themselves well reappeared in the good destinations. This was the second knowledge. Ignorance was destroyed, knowledge arose, darkness destroyed. But the pleasant feeling that arose in this way did not invade his mind and remain. Again, with the mind concentrated, Buddha directed to the knowledge of ending the mental fermentations, or taints. This is stress, this is the origination of stress and suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of stress. These are the taints, this is the origin of the taints, this is the cessation of the taints, this is the way leading to the cessation of the taints. And Buddha continues, when I knew and saw thus, my mind was liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being and from the taint of ignorance. Then came the knowledge, birth is destroyed, the holy life lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. This was the third true knowledge. Ignorance vanished and true knowledge arose. But such pleasant feeling did not invade Buddha's mind and remain. Buddha next says, Saccaka, I've recall teaching the Dhamma to an assembly of many hundreds, each person thinking, I am teaching the Dhamma exclusively to that person in the assembly. But it should not be seen that way. I only teach the Dhamma to others to give them knowledge. When the talk is finished, I steady my mind, quieten it, bring it to singleness, concentrated on the same sign of concentration as before, in which I constantly abide. Saccaka throws in another question. Does Master Gotama ever sleep during the day? Buddha replies that during the hot season, after alms round, he may fall asleep, mindful and fully aware. To which Saccaka suggests some recluses and Brahmins call that abiding in delusion. Buddha responds, this is not how one is deluded or undeluded. The one I call deluded is the one who has not abandoned the taints that defile, bring rebirth. A person undeluded is one who has abandoned the taints that defile and bring rebirth. The Tathagata has abandoned the taints that defile and bring rebirth. Saccaka replies that it is marvellous how Master Gotama has kept his patience when spoken to offensively and discourteously by himself. Saccaka recalls how when debating other recluses like Purana Kassapa, Makadani Gosala, Ajita Kesambala, Balin, how they would colour up, get into a rage, but Master Gotama stays calm and collected, as to be expected from one who is fully accomplished and enlightened. And so I go. We are busy and have much to do, says Saccaka. And Buddha replies, now is the time, Saccaka, to do as you think fit. And that's the end of Majjhima Nikaya number 36. Thanks for watching.